Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I am Andy. See,
you remembered.
I got it. Yeah. 150 something episodes in. And joined by the other host, Hanna.
Hello.
And by our interrupting editor, Fish.
Yellow.
It's like that joke.
The
interrupting cow.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No,
yeah. Glad you know it.
And it's a good one. It's classic. We have had some responses on YouTube to some of our.
Oh.
Nothing that I can like jump out as being like, oh, that's important. But people are listening.
Cool.
So shout out to you listeners and thank you.
Nice.
Thanks for leaving comments on Facebook.
Yeah, nothing that's like actually this.
No. There was one. Who was the nurse that we're talking about that killed a bunch of people? You know,
Ann Capoot.
Yeah, someone who was. Like,
I don't. She didn't kill a bunch of people though.
Or was that Jane Toppin?
Jolly Jane
Jolly Jane
Toppin.
Toppin.
Maybe it was Jolly Jane. Now I'd have to look again.
Yeah,
but maybe it was Ann Capoot. Did she not kill people?
Not a lot of them. It was just a one case scenario that she was tried for.
I want to say it was that one, and they're like, oh, you know, my grandmother was related to her or knew her or something.
Ann Capoot?
Yeah.
Okay. And I told you the victim of that is my dad's childhood best friend's aunt.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that's why he was suggesting it in the moment. My goodness. And he was like, oh, I'll have, when I told him that, I was like, oh, I did the episode on Ann Capoot, whatever. And he was like, I'll have Steve listen to it. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
And he was like, that's his aunt. That was.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes. And I was like, don't. Yeah. So not that I think that, like, I can listen back to it. And I'm like, yeah. But it was, I always feel weird about that.
It was just that initial, like, oh, what do we say?
Yeah. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. It's just a completely different viewpoint of someone that's related to the situation that closely. So I always am like, oh.
Yeah. You don't want to upset
people. Don't relive it. Don't do it. Because it was an upsetting situation. Yeah. But anyways.
That's not what we're talking about today.
It isn't, but I wanted to.
Oh, you have an update?
I have slightly an update because I just went and did something pretty cool, and it has to do with what I'm going to talk about.
Is it a crime?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Proceed.
Audience, just so you know, she did stop and think about that for a second.
And the laugh was super sus.
So, no, it wasn't a crime. Yesterday, Walter, myself, and Donnie went and visited a life-size blow-up replica of a North Atlantic right whale.
I saw the photos.
Yes.
And I was super jealous. They were supposed to have that at some of our events this year, and then they just kind of went non-responsive.
Oh, okay. So this is the uswhales.org, and it's the Whale Dolphin
Conservation.
Yeah. You know them well.
I do. They've been on the show.
And they've been in...
Friend of a show.
Yeah, and they are based out of Plymouth, but they have some other offices. They gave a nice long introduction of why Delilah exists. Delilah is the name of the North Atlantic right whale. She was a real living whale.
All right.
That was found deceased and used for science.
Yeah.
So the scale that they have of her was the real scale of Delilah.
Yeah.
As we know, they are a critically endangered species. There's about like 300-ish of them. They're a little over 300.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Delilah's 45 feet long, weighed 37 tons. And inside, it shows you like the organs.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Like laid out as to where they were.
I saw the photo and I was like, what is that? Because I saw the inside photo first, and then I was like, oh, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, so it shows like lung, spine, all that stuff. It was so cool. You could see like the baleen, and then they had just pieces of whale remains too that you could look at. So they had some baleen, a spine piece. It was so cool. So it was at the Wareham Free Library.
That's very cool.
And we went and looked at it, and it's inflated like a bouncy house.
Yeah.
So in order to go in, they have to let a lot of air out. So she deflates for a short time, not all the way.
Yeah.
But because you're opening up enough space for people to walk in safely.
Yeah.
So it allows for a lot of air to go out. As you can imagine, this event brings mostly children.
Yeah.
Who wild cards in a situation like that. It was very funny.
Yeah.
There were kids who were like first very excited to go in and then terribly scared to go in because as you're going in, it's like spacesuit experience.
Yeah.
Wind is being blown at you.
Yeah.
You're suddenly dropped into like another world because it didn't you couldn't even tell what it was.
Right.
It feels space-esque when you're inside of her because the lighting from outside has such a strange effect when you're in it.
Yeah.
And so we walked in. Walter, no care in the world, took off right to the end of her, was cracking up. Also, feels very weird because you're like, oh my gosh, this is once a living creature. I'm not in the actual living creature.
Say, it wasn't really a living creature.
No, but the idea, the concept was not lost on me.
Yeah.
It felt weird.
Yeah.
But, so he's running around and then everyone's kind of jostled by the change of environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some kids are like, I have to leave immediately.
It looked short, and it could have just been the perspective. Were you able to stand up in it?
Yeah, she's very tall.
Okay.
So there's a picture I have of Donnie and Walter standing next to, and Walter is on Donnie's head, not even his shoulders.
Yeah.
And that's how tall she is.
Oh, okay.
So even taller, I would think, in certain areas, the right middle, highest point of a whale.
Yeah.
While they're laying down is very tall.
Their waistline.
Yeah, their waistline. Stand up, no problem. I think I could have reached both arms into the air and still had room.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was massive. It was massive. I think I took pictures at an angle where I wasn't capturing other people's children.
Yeah.
So
that's good of you.
I try to do that. Yes. Yeah. And I just didn't want them in my pictures.
Yeah. Kids ruining your photo.
Kids, they ruin everything.
No.
They do.
But intentionally too, so they wouldn't.
That's right. They intentionally ruin everything.
No. So I wouldn't be posting other people's kids to the internet. But moving on from that super cool experience, our library does a lot of cool stuff, much like other libraries. So just a little shout out.
Adjacent to what we're talking about?
Shout out to our local libraries. It is.
So we're talking about Walter.
No. We're talking about
libraries.
Inflatable whales.
Animal recreations.
Okay.
And this is a sequel episode.
Okay.
Kind of.
To the G.I. Joe episode?
No.
Oh.
Animal recreations?
There's some fake animals in it. There's a dog and a wolf. Dolphin.
No, you're right. Think dolphin. But more bird.
Are we
The
following
flying
up the Flamingo
dolphin.
episode?
We're following up the Flamingo episode.
Okay. All right.
Didn't look at the list at all. I was inspired.
Okay, that's fine.
It came organically. I know someone, they've acquaintances with someone who lives in Leominster.
Okay.
And
I've seen inflatable flamingos.
So not inflatable.
Okay.
But the ones we know and are very familiar with that hang out in people's yards.
Lawn flamingos?
Lawn flamingos were created in Leominster, Massachusetts.
Get out, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting.
It is. And I thought, it's practically the state bird.
Yeah.
We've had 3. Why wouldn't we make that in Massachusetts?
I would like to correct your pronunciation. It's Leominster.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to talk about the brief history of its creation. It was created by Don Featherstone.
What do they call that fish?
Nominative determinism.
That's it. It's when your name kind of predicts what you're going to do.
Yes, I was. That's what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
not in that word.
I just knew there was a word for it.
He was born in Worcester. And he was born in 1936. He actually recently passed away.
That's
Semi-recently, 2015.
okay. That's pretty recent.
Yeah, I would say so. And he graduated from Worcester Arts Museum's art school in 1957. For the time, he was like, this is like movie situation, I feel like, where you go to college and you get a job immediately after college.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I'm graduated and now I'm off to my career.
And now I have a grown-up job right away.
Yes, that's what happened to him. So he was offered a job with Union Products. They were based out of Leominster, Mass. And the job was just to be designing three-dimensional things, objects, but he was specifically given different animals that he needed to design too.
Okay.
One of the first things he sculpted was a girl with a watering can and a boy with a dog.
Interesting. So were these all like lawn
Just for random needs decoration, I believe so. Yes. This, when I think of a boy with a dog and girl with a watering can, I think of those shadow shaped lawn decors. You know the ones I'm talking about, where there's like the cowboy leaning against
They're
the tree.
just kind of silhouettes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I picture that. So I don't know if that.
Well,
If
that's interesting. I was thinking more like.
well, it says 3D. It says 3D, but I was thinking maybe.
Garden gnome light.
And it could be that.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that's where it went to.
Okay.
You could be right, though. It specifically says 3-dimensional items.
Yeah.
I'm thinking very 2D, which is probably incorrect. So anyway, he sculpted and designed over 750 items in his time there.
Yeah.
Before the Flamingo came to be, he was asked to design a duck. So for this project, he purchased a duck and named
a live duck.
a live duck
Okay.
and named him Charlie.
That's a good duck name.
It is.
I don't like when people name their dogs like human names, but I feel like Charlie for a duck.
Is duck far enough away from normal pet that you can give it a people name and it's not weird?
I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how much of a pet he was. No hate to Don. He did release him into a park, Shell Park, which is like right near Worcester.
Oh, just let it go on.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I suppose it's better than eating it.
Yeah,
What kind of duck was it? Like a local duck, or
it didn't say.
'cause if it's like a mallard,
Then it's fine. Yeah, it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's native.
Exactly. So later that same year, so still 1957. So this is.
Sorry, I just Googled boy watering can lawn decoration.
Let's see what it says.
And that's what I.
Oh,
So that's the kind of thing I was thinking of.
that probably that might be him. That could be the
could
work
be.
of Dawn. So
What was the girl? Girl and dog?
girl. It was girl and watering can, boy and dog. But that could have been a
Oh, I
girl too.
confused it.
It was very like unisex outfit.
Yeah.
Let me know when you find it.
Girl.
I feel like there's a lot of like famously shared lawn decors, lawn gnomes being one of them, but they all look so different. And then there's like, of course, the dog. You know, the dog
Peeing on.
doing
stuff.
his business.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of like Sasquatch ones.
I haven't seen a lot of Sasquatch.
Oh, I've seen the Sasquatch ones.
I've seen some deer. I remember that, like growing up, there were deer, and we kept always talking about like going out one night and strategically relocating the deer.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit too.
Okay.
Did you find one?
There's a bunch of them, but nothing that.
Okay.
That shouts
There's,
out
like,
as
all
the right
different
one.
kind,
Yeah.
He does release the duck, Charlie, not too long after getting him. Same year that he graduated, he is tasked with creating a flamingo. So what does
So
he
it wasn't
do?
even his idea. Like someone's like, make me a flamingo.
It was. I don't know how collaborative the process was, but I
Yeah.
do believe it was just like someone busting out some ideas and he was
Yeah.
asked to carve it.
Some upper management guy's job to name animals.
Yeah. So he's creating the flamingo, right? He does not buy a flamingo to do that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
Amateur.
He instead looks at National Geographic photos to recreate the flamingo. The first one that he ever did, his name was Diego. He named him Diego.
Okay, good name.
They became widely popular across the country, mostly because, I wouldn't say mostly, but in 1957, pink was like a very popular color, like very mid-century color. And so they just became all the rage to have at home. He added a signature to the plastic mold to be able to distinguish between the knockoffs that were being made.
Interesting.
Because you could make one of a similar design and technically not have it be
a direct copy.
Yes, exactly. So there was a random period where they took the Don Featherstone signature off of the model. So yeah, there was a brief period. They took the signature out in 2001, but the unsigned copies were boycotted.
Oh, interesting.
So this is like a known thing of the people who are intending to buy them. I don't know if it was wholesalers
so you wanted
even.
Like a Featherstone flamingo.
Yes, a Featherstone flamingo. You got it.
This makes me think of like my grandmother. Like my grandmother used to call the sofa the Davenport.
Oh yeah.
Because that was right.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if you'd be like, oh, someone stole our Featherstone.
Yeah. You know? So in 2006, Union Products closed. They stopped production. They sold to a New York-based company that bought the molds for the Featherstone's flamingos.
What was his first name?
Don. Then they subcontracted the flamingo making to another company called Cato Products, and they ended up buying it outright in 2010. So they have the mold. They have like the rights to it.
Yeah.
And they are generally, to this day, still sold. You can still buy a Featherstone. You can still get a Featherstone. Cato Products are still up and running, and they are generally sold in sets of 2. Do you know what they look like?
One has like their head down, and the other has their head up.
Yeah. One looks like they're feeding, technically, and the other one looks like they're kind of just like waiting in the water. But yeah, that's the story of the...
I was just checking to see if Don was related to Glenn. Because that would have been
Who's
insane.
Glenn?
Glenn Featherstone used to be a defenseman for the Bruins.
Oh.
But he's Canadian, so... I mean, they might be related at
somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, just the assumption that Featherstone isn't a super common
very
last
uncommon name.
Yeah. But I was like, wow, this is so timely to figure this out. We just had a flamingo on the Cape.
I know, and like that's one of those. Like usually when I tell people about the podcast, I'm like, oh, we did like an episode about Tupperware because Tupperware is a local thing. But I had no idea that the lawn flamingo.
No, that's and crazy. Then do you guys know
it just
about?
Doesn't make sense. Like I figured that would be like Florida.
It doesn't feel Massachusetts.
No,
it's not.
Storing food, that's like, oh yeah, you know, like
and it's like
pioneery, you know.
Well, it's just super kitschy plastic tubs. Yeah, anyone can do that.
Yeah,
plastic flamingos just feels somewhere weird. With like long summers.
Yeah. Well, now you can buy your pink lawn flamingos and show them proudly because that is a Massachusetts born.
Now
concept.
I feel like we need one.
I know, me too.
Right?
I never wanted one in my life.
I remember I had it kicking around. I don't know, maybe in the basement at home. I had them, but they weren't. I really doubt they were Featherstone.
Yeah,
they were probably just crappy.
I'm gonna find some. I'm gonna buy some now. Yeah. But do you guys know about the lawn flamingo pranks?
I mean, I'm familiar with childhood shenanigans.
So this isn't even something that I would say it was exclusive to children. It's something I know adults to do more so.
Oh, really?
Was flamingo someone's yard.
Okay.
So you either bite the bullet or you kind of collect your collective yard flamingos and you
just
flamingo someone's. Yes, exactly.
So it's like toilet papering someone's house, but
with flamingos.
With flamingos.
Way more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you strategically relocate them.
Yeah, so if you have a group of friends that do it, it's like you never know who's going to wake up to a yard full of like flamingos. And yeah, cute. I had a friend.
That'd be cute. Like, that'd be like a good like friend thing to do. Kind of be like you put a bunch of lawn flamingos, and like the general rule is they have to do it to a friend and add flamingos.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the nature of it.
That'd be cool.
But I've heard of it because a friend I had growing up. She's still my friend now. I shouldn't say just exclusively growing up, but her parents used to do it with their friend group.
Oh, really?
But yes, but it was after that. That was not the only time I had heard of it. It is like a.
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't say it's equivalent to stealing someone's yard gnome to take on vacation with you and taking pictures of it, but there's like
it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a cultural.
Yeah. And it's a Massachusetts thing.
Yeah, that's so funny.
We should do Dunkin' Donuts yard flamingos. Just turn one orange.
Okay, I'm like, do you mean make them out of like Dunkin' Donut cups?
No.
Just paint one orange, one pink.
Yeah. They should have a collab.
They should.
I have such a good idea.
And then they could do Featherstone donuts.
Yes. Call Dunkin's.
All right, I'll get them on the horn. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that's all I have. I thought that would be a fun little and like, not that the whale is of the same type of recreation, but I was like, it's very weird that I'm going to a recreated
it's a good segue.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, this is like another animal.
It's a better segue than Andy and I usually pull off.
By accident.
Oh, your segues are great.
Not always by well, always by accident, but never necessarily where we're going with it.
Yeah, that's not. I thought you were gonna do like the big blue bug.
Oh, also, can I say I've never heard the term sweat equity more in my life since we talked about sweat equity.
I don't remember why were we talking?
This old house. I swear it gets brought up. I see it or I hear it once a week at the minimum.
That's like the Mini Cooper type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first bought my Mini Cooper, the guy I bought it from was like, "You'll see." I'm like, "What do you mean you'll see?" He's like, "You'll see them everywhere."
You'll
now.
see.
And it was like everybody and their brother bought a Mini Cooper that week. It's just they're everywhere. It's just like it doesn't register until like, because now I feel like for the next like 3 months we're all gonna be like, "Oh my god, I saw more flamingos."
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Okay.
Did you look them up to see how much are they of it? Are real Featherstones available on Amazon Prime? So I Google them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the
go? Oh, they're like 20-something bucks. It's happening.
Each or
they come as a pair.
Yeah, they come as a pair.
That's nothing. That's super cheap.
Like they come as a pair, so we can just paint one of them orange.
And then put them on a Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes.
So I think this is the part where we stop talking. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.